Hello, welcome to episode 101 of Adventures Pop. My name is Simon Jacobs, and you are incredibly welcome as we head into another week. I'm going to cover a couple of things today. I want to talk a little bit about a song that kind of didn't make the grade. I've done this before. We talk about, songs that for whatever reason just weren't kind of either good enough or right enough at the moment of deciding what goes on albums or what gets released as singles and never got released. So I just want to give it a little moment in the sunshine and also just talk very briefly about the controversy that's blown up around the headlining acts at Glastonbury, because they're all men. Well, they're all white men, actually. Should we start with Glastonbury? Okay, you probably know this by now, but the headlining acts at Glastonbury this year are going to be the Arctic Monkeys on the first night, Guns N' Roses on the second night, and Elton John on the third night. So if you have a little think about those, none of them are women, are they? And they're all white. So they've come in for quite a bit of flack. I mean, not the artists, but the Glastonbury organisers in particular. Emily Evis, who's the daughter of the owner and founder of Glastonbury, and so she's obviously kind of like the main person responsible for confirming acts on certain days and working out which stage and the whole kind of lineup and running order even of the acts. And yeah, okay, so she says quite a lot of things, and actually, what I want to do is just pick out a few points from a Guardian article from a few days ago, because it's tricky. I do think it looks embarrassing, basically, and I think, you wonder if they could have tried harder. But there are some mitigating circumstances, and there are a lot of women further down the bill. But in a way, that's part of the point, isn't it? Is are we comfortable with a nice situation where women or people of colour are kind of the bottom of the bill, and then eventually, of course, you get to you go up the hierarchy, and at the top there's always Queen or something, because that's not great, is it? So this is the way it's written out in the Guardian here. Certainly, it says Guns N' Roses were booked when a previously confirmed female headliner pulled out because she changed her touring plans, said Evis. She declined to name names, but said she hoped they would headline within the next 5 years. Now, apparently, the rumour has it that person who pulled out was Taylor Swift. Now, just a rumour, but because of some commitments that she had in the US for finishing a tour there, she couldn't be in Glastonbury. And then, rather helpfully, we find out from this Guardian article, the Guns N' Roses added a female keyboard player. I'm not sure that's enough, to be honest. I don't think that's actually relevant, but I'm glad they did that. Obviously, I'm very, very, very pleased for Melissa Reese. Bless her. And Emily Evis says they'll be brilliant and provided something totally different to the rest of the headliners. And then apparently Lizzo will open for the US rockers and has joint headline billing. Well, I bet Lizzo comes first and Guns N' Roses comes second. She could totally headline, said Evis. Then why isn't she? Adding that the Pyramid stage often sees bigger crowds in the afternoon than at night. Many of the artists could, but the headline slot had already been promised to someone else. Now, further down the bill, apparently we're going to be seeing Brit-winning girl band Flo, the US country stars The Chicks. I really like The Chicks, by the way. So I've never been to Glastonbury, and I'm not thinking of going this time either. I'm not a very festival person, but I do like The Chicks, particularly their version of Fleetwood Mac's Landslide. Go check that out; it's fantastic. Lil Nas X will return to play before Elton John because they're mates. And Lana Del Rey will graduate from the Pyramid stage from when she performed there in 2014, and she's going to fill an afternoon slot on the other stage, And apparently 52% of the 54 names on this week's partial lineup announcement, with many more acts still to come, are male. So 52 to 48 is the gender split. But obviously the controversy has kicked in because of the headlining acts. And Evis has said things about, basically she's very focused on balancing the bill. It's not just about gender, it's about every aspect of diversity. And that's great. And I commend her for that. Now, and apparently, there's a little bit of rumour that maybe Madonna or Rihanna, who've never played at Glastonbury before, might be on the bill for next year. But frankly, we're not talking about next year yet, are we? So that's all very well, but, we're talking about this year. And Emily Evers was apparently forced to deny the perpetual rumours, stoked by the group themselves, that the Spice Girls would appear. This is not a conversation we're having at the moment, said Evis. But apparently Melanie C is booked to perform. So there you go. It has been all over the news, actually, that, is this kind of all white, all male, and frankly, sort of slightly elderly headlining trio of acts. Is a bit of a disappointment and an embarrassment to Glastonbury, and it's not on brand. And it's hard to disagree, isn't it? But so what Emily Eves is also saying is, it's not their fault. There's a problem in the music business pipeline, and I think we've talked about this before in relation to DJs, and really, there's no doubt that that is true, because it's not just about the stars that become famous, and obviously this is all about the acts. But if you look deeper into the music business, at all kind of at all the really key positions around music companies, right across the whole piece, DJs, record companies, etc. They're predominantly men. So even when a woman artist breaks through and becomes successful and famous, often it's a team of men who are organising the whole piece, doing the marketing, deciding which single to release and all the rest of it. There are very few artists with the power of Madonna or Taylor Swift or Rihanna or, back in the day, Kate Bush. You don't get many of those to the pound. So, look, that's it. I'm not really having a rant. I just think it's quite interesting, how every now and again this subject just bubbles up again because it hasn't been really dealt with. And you'll know as well, the Brit Awards that happened a month or so ago, they've basically dispensed with best male artist and best female artist and just shoved them all together. And I don't know how I feel about that. It's probably done with all the best will in the world and kind of takes account of people wanting to not be, gender labelled. But it's only good if it doesn't always, just get won by a load of blokes again. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see what happens. Now, look, change of subject. Here in the UK, we'll keep this brief because otherwise I could just go off on one, and that's not helpful. Here in the UK, basically the government's handling of the COVID pandemic is back in the news because, and we'll keep this short, but the guy who was our health secretary during most of the pandemic decided it was very useful for him to write a book as quickly as he could to basically tell everybody that all of his actions were heroic and that everything good was down to him and anything bad was down to somebody else. Now, in the meantime, the government, like many governments around the world, is doing a review of what went well and what went badly. Well, I should just say, really, they're doing a review of all the things that went badly. I'm not sure what went well. That's going to be a very short piece. But the trouble is that is taking a very long time to materialise because I think the government who are in situ at the moment in this country don't really want to see that, maybe ever, or at least, if they can push it past the next general election, great. But the health secretary, in writing his book, basically gave all of his WhatsApp messages, and I mean all. Apparently this is like War and Peace times 4, millions of WhatsApp messages. So all of his conversations he was having basically with everyone, scientists, other politicians, and everyone in the world, He gave them to a journalist who was helping him write his book, and then the journalist decided it would be a very good idea if she gave them to the Daily Telegraph. So, look, in short, basically, we are now being given, the inside story, blow by blow, from the horses' mouths, in the way that they just talk to each other. It's very interesting, not very edifying. And it's back in the news, and it's going to be in the news for ages and ages. So we're being reminded of what it was like as COVID, took hold, and everyone was basically scared stiff before there were any vaccines, and all the rigmarole, all the scare tactics basically that the government employed to keep everybody as obedient as possible while they misbehaved. That's it. That's all I want to say about that. But it reminded me that 3 years ago, because I just couldn't get my head into anything else, I did write a bunch of songs that were entirely pandemic related. And I remember I probably had 3, 4, maybe 5 of these things. And I sent them to a bunch of friends and said, look, I don't know what you think of these, but I need some feedback. We've talked about feedback before. I said, I need some feedback. Just tell me which of these you like, or just put them in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just don't need to tell me why. Don't try and second guess what everybody else might think. Just tell me what you think of these. And it was very interesting. I think the feedback I got was that they, on the whole, didn't like any of them. I mean, maybe not all of my friends, but I think by the time I'd got this little group of songs together and sent them out, it was probably the very thing that this small group of friends of mine absolutely didn't want to hear at all. I think, it was pandemic 100%, on the radio, on the news, on the television, everywhere you looked, everyone could only talk about and focus on COVID. So like many artists, I'm sure, I wrote a bunch of songs, sent them out to a few people and said, hey, what do you think of my new songs? And basically the overwhelming answer was, shove them, thank you, don't really want to hear those. It's just too much, go away. So I did, and I didn't release any of them. I just thought, actually, I think they're right. And sadly, irrespective of the merits of any of them, the musical and, lyrical genius of any of them, I think my friends have got a point, and I just probably need to try and move on to something else. So I did. Out of all of them, there is one of the songs that I think has a bit of merit. I still don't think it's ever going to probably get released and see the real light of day, but maybe it's worth just sharing now that we're 3 years further down the road and, maybe not in quite such a stew about this awful thing that was really so difficult for so many people. So, far be it for me to make light of it. 3 years has passed. I think lots of people are a little older and wiser, except obviously the government, who are just pretending, that everything went brilliantly. So I wrote a song called Hello, Hello. It is miserable, so I'm warning you, it's quite miserable, but it's also, I don't know, I was quite pleased with it. It had a couple of things going on in it which were a bit unusual, and I'm gonna let you listen to it, I'll do a little lyrics video just so that you don't just nod off to sleep. It's 4 minutes, and although it's obviously miserable and sad, it's not like a lovelorn ballad. It's just I like to think it packs a little punch. One of the nice things about the song is it starts with the line, hello, hello, I hear the voice on the radio. And actually, the song is really about how the radio has become my only friend. And that was certainly true. What I did, though, hello, hello, I hear the voice on the radio. I thought on the day I was writing this, I would actually do what I'm sure so many people have also done before, which is to record straight off the news, the voice on the news on that day, and just have it chattering away in the background, that kind of voice that sounds like a news report, because it was a news report, just in the background on the track at the beginning. And the thing that is so interesting is on that day, I recorded, I think, probably the lunchtime news or something, where the presenter was talking about COVID, because that's all that anyone talked about. And you can hear right at the very beginning, she's quoting a line from the government that then became quite famous, which was about, how the priority is to test, test, test. And you can hear the word test, test, test. By the way, we didn't ever quite get round to test, test, test. Well, not for a long, long time. But it's just interesting that, that little piece of audio has got the news on that day talking about the really dire need to test, test, test. There's one other line I quite like. Where does it go? Yes. Hello, hello. I'm so bored of the daytime TV show. This is the second verse, and all of the mindless chat. I'm dealing with the highs and lows and thanking God for my radio, because where would I be without that? The phone-ins I won't ever call. Through the nights that I don't sleep at all, I hear the voices rise and fall. And part of that actually is referring back to, and I'll just keep this very, very quick, is in the months leading up to the pandemic, I was staying with my mum because my place was getting renovated. This room was being built. And I think I'd forgotten that she does actually go to bed, irrespective of pandemic or no pandemic. She goes to bed every night with the radio on. So I remember going to bed one night and thinking, I can hear a strange man talking in my mum's bedroom. What the hell is going on? And standing there thinking, what? And then realising, I think with huge relief, of course, that it was just, Radio 4 in the middle of the night. Probably it was the shipping forecast or just, the world service at 2:00 in the morning or something, just chattering away. So no need to worry. Anyway, I am going to leave you with this song that never made it, part of my occasional Songs That Never Made It series. And you'll be pleased to know that I'll be back, later on this month. There's going to be a couple of releases of songs that I hope will make it. One is going to be a Goldhawk Foxes song, really nice, coming out in a few weeks, and another one from me as well, which is continuing with the single releases from the album 5, which is coming towards its conclusion. So as the days get longer and we head into spring, don't think about COVID really, but have a listen to this song, Hello, Hello, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye, goodbye. Take care. Bye-bye.
Hello, hello, I hear the voice on the radio. It's become my only friend. Hello, hello, I think of the places I used to go, and I hope I'll see them again. The delivery driver used to stop for a chat as he brought the groceries up to my flat. All of this has put an end to that. Well, if you're out there, call me on the phone. Do anything to stop me from being alone. Hello, hello, I'm so bored of the daytime TV show and all of the mindless chats. So I'm dealing with the highs and lows and thanking God for my radio, 'cause where would I be without that? The phone-ins I will never call through the nights that I don't sleep at all. I hear the voices waves rise and fall. Well, if you're out there, call me on the phone. Do anything to stop me from being alone. I don't care who you are, just get on the phone. Do anything to stop me from being alone. Hello, hello, I remember the places we used to go. Oh, it must have been way back when. Hello, hello, I hear the voice on the radio. It's become my only friend. Well, if you're out there, call me on the phone. Do anything to stop me from being alone. Oh, I don't care who you are, just get on the phone. Do anything to stop me from being alone. I don't care who you are, just get